Hello everybody, Todd Brown here today. I'm going to talk about the 4 dimensions of a whole person. I think we oftentimes overlook that, but today we're going to talk about it. What it looks like is this. We have, each circle represents a dimension of who we are or what we're built of. Some would say these are the building blocks of who we are as a person. And today we're going to talk about them. I'm going to break down each one of them to tell you what they are and how they apply in each one of our lives. And here we go. Join me as we talk about the 4 dimensions of a whole person. Okay, so in the 4 dimensions of the whole person, what I want to start off with is just this upper left-hand corner, this one up here. I want to talk about our spiritual being. It's our spiritual aspect of who we are. Now, oftentimes when people read that, they think, well, I don't go to church, or I don't go to a synagogue, or I don't practice a modern religion, or even an ancient religion. When it talks about spiritual as a function of our whole person, what it really means, what it's really talking about is we're serving something bigger than ourselves. We're serving a purpose bigger than who we are. Think about that as it comes to our military. I'm not just one person, but I'm serving with a whole bunch of people that are trying to serve a purpose that's bigger than ourselves, protecting our nation, protecting our state, whatever it shall be. I'm serving a purpose bigger than myself. Now for me, when it comes to the spiritual, yes, I'm a Christian. I practice my Christian faith. That is my spiritual realm. That is my spiritual being, who I am when it comes to that dimension of a whole person. So some would say that they go out into nature, they go for a hike, whatever it is. How do we connect? The question that I would give you is this: how do you connect spiritually with who you are? Again, is it nature? Is it a being such as, God or whatever that shall be for you? But this is a dimension of who we are, and we need to recognize it, that is who we are. That's what makes us up. Now, as we move to the next one, the next circle, this is what the next circle is that we're going to address, and that is emotional. Part of who we are is emotional. I think that one of the books, I have it right here, Emotional Intelligence 2.0. What a great book. It really is, and I would recommend it. I'm not getting anything from it, but I think it's a great book. Why? Because it breaks it down super simple of who we are as emotions and how that works, emotional intelligence. I read an article a while back that said those who reach their highest levels of leadership in organizations, the thing that separates them the most is they understand what emotional intelligence is. They understand how it works, how to regulate their emotions, how to help others regulate their emotions too. Emotions is a big part of who we are as a person. Now, let's move down to another one. I'm going to introduce all of them, and I'm going to jump back into them to kind of help us understand them a little bit more. So we have spiritual, emotional, we have physical. Some would say, well, physical is just working out. Physical is my body. Physical is who I am. It's my actual arm and my leg and all this, that, and the other. Okay, that's true, but the physical goes into much more than that. Think about diet, think about exercise, think about nutrition, think about exercise. You've heard me do little videos about get outside and move. That's part of our physical being. As we go into our 4th circle, this is mental. Now that we have all the circles filled up, spiritual, emotional, physical, and mental, that's what makes up who we are as a whole person. Now, let me tell you a little story about how we need to look at each one of those, how we need to look at those as a whole. And then we're going to go into what each one of them look like and how we can get better in each one of them. Think of this. Think of each one of these as a tire on your car. Now, each one of your tires has a certain amount of pressure that it takes to run properly. And I think that we've all been there, that maybe the tire gets a little low or whatever, and we can notice a pull in our car, or we notice a wobble in that tire. Well, all of a sudden we recognize that at 60 miles an hour, that wobble goes away. So we drive 60 miles an hour rather than putting a little air in it. And then all of a sudden, a week goes by or 2 weeks go by, and at 60 miles an hour, that tire is wobbling again. So we take it up to 65 and it doesn't wobble no more. We think we're coming up with a quick fix for the tires wobbling on our car. Then eventually it goes down, eventually you end up at the mechanics. And the mechanic says, hey, you got bad front end, we need to realign your front end, and by the way, you need new tires because it's wore out, so we got to get all 4 new tires, and this, that, and the other. So a very simple fix, or a little fix in the very beginning of just taking a few minutes and putting some air in a tire, turned into a major fix in the end, and it created pain, financially, emotionally, physically. You had to probably miss a day of work, or you had to coordinate kids to go somewhere, or you had to pick up the kids late from school. So it created a lot of problems by not just taking care of it at the very beginning. When we look at the 4 dimensions of a whole person, it's much the same. Things will get out of balance. Does that mean that our life is upside down? Hopefully not. But when things get out of balance, we need to recognize that it's out of balance, and we need to try to bring it back in balance as quickly and as efficiently as possible. There is one circle on here that I did not put in here, but I'm going to put it in here right now and talk just a little bit about it before we move forward. That circle is the one right here in the middle, where all of them operate together, where all of them are doing what they should be doing, and everything is operating at optimal level. Sometimes this is called the golden circle, where they all 4 are balanced out well. I had the opportunity to talk to a licensed clinical social worker a while back that does therapy and things like that, and we were talking about the 4 dimensions of a whole person. More specifically, we were talking about this golden circle, this circle here in the middle. And what I asked him was this. I said, is this something, or how hard is it to stay here and live here in the golden circle in the middle where everything is balanced out? And I'll never forget his response. His response was, it's impossible. He said that you will have seasons in your life where you're there for a good day or 2, or you're there for a minute or 2, or an hour or 2, whatever it is. But most likely, most of our lives, we're going to spend a little bit out of balance. Ideally, we want to be here. And I think then his closing was, living there is almost impossible, but understanding that we're trying to get there is the victory. And so I think that understanding that, yes, these things are going to be out of balance. Life is going to throw us a curveball. Life is going to change things up on us. And things are going to be different. Things are going to be harder. And things are going to be out of balance. Recognizing how to bring them back in balance is one thing. So I already expanded a little bit about the spiritual realm. The spiritual realm, we understand that we're serving a purpose bigger than ourselves. What are we doing? What is your spiritual pursuit? It is a person. It is part of who you are as a person. Whether you're going to church, going for nature walks, doing some meditation, doing yoga, whatever it is that you can begin to connect at a deeper level, something outside of who you are, so that you can try to find balance. Here's a question before we move on to the next one. If you were to look at these 4 dimensions and you were to say, which one is easiest to recognize when somebody's out of balance? For example, if I'm looking at a friend, or if I'm looking at a coworker, a family member, with my eyes, I'm physically looking at them, which one would be easiest to recognize if it's out of balance? More often than not, people will answer that it's the physical realm. If people have gained a whole bunch of weight, or they're not taking care of themselves, it's the physical realm. But here's my challenge. Here's where I want you to think just a little bit deeper. Maybe the physical is when somebody is is gained weight or whatever it is. Maybe that's just a side effect to them being emotionally distraught, or being mentally challenged in areas that they're just so overloaded with things going on in life that they're not taking care of those other ones. They're out of balance. And so getting back in balance, or trying to pursue getting back in balance, is so important. So spiritual. Let's move over to the emotional. What is emotional? I mean, I talked about the book already. I already talked about Emotional Intelligence 2.0. Understanding our emotions, understanding the value in them is so important. I was talking to a therapist the other day, and we were discussing emotions. Because I think sometimes we don't think about them enough. They bring value to who we are. They bring value to a situation. They bring value to what's going on. And oftentimes they color in the colors that we don't see in the situation that we're in. And I said to her, good emotions and bad emotions. And that was my first mistake. And her response was, there's no such thing as a good emotion or a bad emotion. All emotions are necessary. And I thought to myself, that's so valuable. I understand that a little bit better now, because when we lose somebody we love, what do? We grieve. And some would say that, well, that's a bad emotion. No, it's a necessary emotion. It helps us to move from one position to the next. When somebody wrongs you or wrongs your children, or something is done in a manner that is unsafe, and we're disappointed or we're angry, is anger a bad emotion? In that situation, probably not. It's a necessary emotion to move from one to the next so that everybody will be safe, so that things will be improved upon. When we live in that emotion, that's when it becomes a problem. But all emotions are necessary. So my question to you when it comes to understanding the 4 dimensions of a whole person in the emotional realm is, if you had to identify 3 or 4 emotions for yourselves, what would they be? Where do you spend most of your time? If when you're feeling down and you're feeling depressed and you're feeling upset about something, are you identifying why? Why am I in this emotional state? Why did I move here? Because we need to understand that it's such a huge part of who we are. Think about the time that you lost a relationship, or you broke up, or something happened with a family relative or whatever, and you were disappointed, or you were angry, or you're whatever. Those emotions can control what we do and how we do, taking the next steps and getting better and finding balance. But when we live in them, that's one of the challenges that we need to understand. We need to get back to balance. And I've been living here too long in a necessary, difficult emotion. So when it comes to the next one, physical, I think that, like I said earlier, this is the one that everybody recognizes as being the one that's easiest to recognize in others. But when it comes to our physical being, the physical dimension of a whole person, there's so much that goes into this one. I want you to follow me for a minute, if you would. When we eat well, whatever well looks like to you, it doesn't mean fast food. It doesn't mean a whole bunch of fats and a whole bunch of carbs. But when we eat well, do we feel better? Yeah, we do. We do. One time a nutritionist told me that food is fuel. Why, when we put fuel into a car, does it go? Because fuel it gives it speed, it gives it everything that it needs. But oftentimes when we eat food, what's the first thing that we want to do? We want to sleep, we want to lounge back in our lounge chair. So taking care of our bodies through nutrition, through food, is huge. Are we giving ourselves the fuel that we need so that we can make good decisions, so that when it comes to our emotions, when it comes to our mental capacity, when it comes to our doing things, making ourselves bigger, faster, stronger, are we giving ourselves the fuel that we need so that we can be the best versions of ourselves? Another thing about physical is, oftentimes we think about going to a gym and pumping iron and getting big and yoked and this, that, and the other. Good for those who do that. It's fantastic. I'm not saying anything against it. But let's think simpler. Are we getting movement in every day? Are we getting, think of, if you can walk, great. Take a walk, 10, 15 minutes. Get outside and move. Get on a treadmill and move. Move your body so that we can start making sure that things are working properly, joints are working properly. Oftentimes, when it comes to the physical realm, we think that if I'm not going to a gym or if I'm not pumping iron, I'm not doing what I need to do. There's so many little things that we can do in the physical realm to help us be the best versions of ourselves, but I think that we ignore them. I think that we look over them because they seem too simple. Making a routine, creating the ability to make sure that we're eating well, getting some exercise, helps us make sure that we're taking care of ourselves in that physical domain. Now let's move over to the next one, the mental domain. What does that mean? Are we educating ourselves? Are we learning? Are we being intentional about learning? Because I'll be honest with you, I'm 54 years old. Ain't no spring chicken no more. But I didn't understand what the dimensions of a whole person were until about 3 or 4 years ago. And once I understood what the mental domain was and that it was about me educating myself, understanding things, it's hard to deny that we are in an age where there's so much information out there. You can get just saturated with so much information. But when it comes to reading, listening to podcasts, attending conferences, becoming smarter in the areas that we do in our lives, there's a plethora of opportunities out there for us to get better, to understand our mental capacities, to grow in our education. Now, here's a question for you. As you look at those 4 dimensions and you start thinking about them, what's one that you need to improve on? Is it spiritual? Is it emotional? Is it physical? Is it mental? Well, if you're anything like me, it's probably all 4. But the reality is we got to start somewhere. We got to start understanding and bringing in an awareness that all of these things work together to who we are each and every day. They help us have a better day. They help us have a better week. They help us have a better month. My encouragement to you is this. Understand what these are. Punch them up on Google. Research them. Do whatever you can to understand what you're made of. And I almost promise you, even if you're sitting out there going, no, I don't believe in any of that, I'm just a physical being. Well, brother, sister, you need to do a little bit of education. You need to do a little bit of digging into Google, doing some research. Understand that there is dimensions to who you are. And as we raise those around us, whether it's children, family members, as we lead those around us, understanding these 4 dimensions and that everybody has them, helps us be the leaders that we've been called to be, helps us to be the workers that we've been called to be, helps us to be the parents, the spouse that we've been called to be. When we become a better version of ourselves, everybody wins, to include us. And we want to make sure that we have all the tools that we need to move forward. So thank you for joining me today as we move forward and understand what the 4 dimensions of a whole person are. I look forward to our next time together. Have a great day. Hey, thanks for listening today. I really think the 4 dimensions of a whole person is a huge thing. I mean, I blew through it in like 15, 20 minutes, whatever it was. It's super valuable to help us be a better version of ourselves. If you want more stuff like this so that you can be better, so that we can all be better, hey, visit me at functiontoflourish.com. There's more information there. Look forward to sharing some of that stuff there as well. I have an email newsletter that goes out. Sign up for that. YouTube channel, check it out. Why? Because there's nothing I want more than for you to be the best version of yourself. I look forward to our next time together.